The H.R. 5 Equality Act attacks women, religion, and freedom. It's time to unlearn the lies. Hey, welcome to Unlearn. My name is Lex, and I'd like to invite you to join us each week as we unlearn the lies and dig deeper into the truth of God's Word. Now let's get started. The H.R. 5 Equality Act is not about preventing discrimination. In fact, it promotes a more heinous form of discrimination against morality. The Equality Act is seeking to get rid of any form of segregation based on gender. They claim that gender identity should receive the same protection against discrimination as those concerning race and gender. The problem is that natural law, science, and religion all recognize that humans are differentiated into male and female, which means gender is a reality. However, sexual orientation is subjective and changeable and cannot be determined by the same objective means that race and gender are determined with. In other words, race and gender can be factually determined, while gender identity is simply based on a person's own desires and cannot be factually determined. At one moment, a person can decide they want to identify with one gender, and in the next moment, they can change their mind and identify with the other gender. This type of subjective reality is extremely dangerous and unpredictable. Another thing to point out is the rights that women and minorities fought for was the right to vote and the right to work. And the discrimination they faced was segregation on public buses and water fountains. There are no such discriminations against the transgender crowd. We haven't created separate bathrooms, separate bus seats, or separate drinking fountains for transgender people, nor have we told them they can't vote or work. So they aren't fighting for the same rights that women and minority races fought for because they already have those same rights. They want extra privileges, and they want to force people to accept their sinful lifestyle as a valid one. They want approval to live in sin without anyone telling them the truth that their immorality is wrong. The H.R. 5 Equality Act will allow men who claim to identify as women to have access to women's restrooms, changing rooms, showers, locker rooms, women's dorm rooms, and various other private women's areas. This means the H.R. 5 Equality Act takes away our privacy and is extremely dangerous for women. Women would no longer be able to go to the bathroom in private or change clothes in the women's locker room in private, because if a man claims to identify as a woman, he will have full access to those private women's areas. This is extremely dangerous for women, and it's also a major violation of their privacy. This bill puts our wives and children in danger of predators and perverts using this to their own advantage. Peeping Toms will have easy access to places where women are commonly naked and exposed. This is terrifying to me as both a husband and a father. If this bill passes, I will be forced to prevent my wife and children from using public bathrooms and changing rooms. I wonder how many parents will be okay with their daughter playing sports if boys are allowed in the girls' locker room. If a teenage boy decides he wants to play girls' basketball, he will get full access to the girls' locker room and be able to see all the girls showering and changing clothes. Not only that, but if boys start playing girls' sports, they put the girls in physical danger because boys are stronger and play more roughly. We've actually seen an example of this when a transgender man broke a woman's skull in an MMA fight. It also makes it more difficult for girls to excel at sports. For example, if one school has a team full of boys who claim to identify as girls, and they're playing against a team of only girls, this places the all-boy team at an extreme advantage over the all-girl team. It has been scientifically verified that men have an advantage over women in sports. Men tend to be stronger, faster, and can jump higher than their female counterparts. If a man is average in men's sports and decides to compete against women, he will dominate the women he competes against. This is unfair to those female athletes. I believe the people who the Equality Act hurts the most are women and children who will be placed in various types of danger and vulnerability. Consider also that men who claim to identify as women will be allowed to live in the women's dorm rooms in the college campuses. They will be showering with our daughters and possibly sharing a room with our daughters. And since there's no way to verify their claims, this opens up the possibility for perverts and peeping toms to share the same dorm as girls. Don't they see how dangerous this is for women? I can't believe every woman in America isn't crying out against this danger. Advocates for the H.R. 5 Equality Act claim its purpose is to stop discrimination. But I believe it puts women and children in serious danger. Think about it. This bill is concerned about the feelings and opinions of a small percentage of people and is completely unconcerned about putting the lives and privacy of the majority of the population in danger. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Also, the broad label of discrimination makes no specific distinctions as to what qualifies as discrimination, which is extremely problematic and unsettling. Without having clear definitions and distinctions, it is completely subjective and open to multiple interpretations. The Equality Act also blurs gender lines in an attempt to make everyone gender neutral. Traditional gender identification based on genetics would now be considered discrimination. They claim gender identification is subjective and each individual can determine their own gender. This is an attack on our God-given gender roles and gender distinctions. It blurs the lines between male and female and ultimately causes more and more confusion. You shall not at all do as we are doing here today, every man doing what is right in his own eyes. The Equality Act is also an aggressive attack on religious freedom. They will claim that religion cannot discriminate against someone on the basis of their gender identity. This will put churches in a moral dilemma because the world will claim that teaching against sin is actually discrimination and hate speech. This Equality Act violates our freedoms and rights that are stated in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, specifically our freedom of speech and our freedom of religion. Religious orphanages and foster homes will be required to place children with same-sex and transgender couples. This is a major violation of religious morality and freedom of religion. The First Amendment of the Bill of Rights states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievance." The Equality Act will essentially take away our freedom of speech and our freedom of religion. It will also take away the freedom of Christian business owners and force them to violate their Christian morality. If a Christian business owner does not allow men to enter the women's bathroom or changing room, they will be the target of lawsuits. This means they will be forced to compromise their morals. There is no religious exemption to this bill, which means churches will be forced to comply as well. Churches would be forced to host same-sex ceremonies and allow cross-dressers to use the women's bathrooms, changing rooms, and nursing mother rooms at any time and stay as long as they please. Colleges will lose their accreditation for non-compliance and become ineligible to receive student loans, which would cause most religious schools to close. If churches or religious organizations take overnight trips, including sports or mission trips, they cannot segregate rooms by biological gender. The Equality Act is an attack on the church and Christian morality, and I would argue the Equality Act is a satanic attack against God's holy people. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Satan wants to blur the distinction between men and women, cause confusion about gender, normalize immorality, and ultimately destroy the family. Satan is attacking our families on multiple fronts. The feminist agenda is Satan's attempt to dismantle the biblical patriarchal family structure and destroy biblical male headship in the family. Pro-choice promotes a woman's selfish desire to kill a child simply because she doesn't want it. The LGBTQ agenda seeks to undermine biblical marriage and gender roles while also pushing to normalize sexual immorality. The H.R. 5 Equality Act is satanic, and if it becomes law, it will endanger our women and children, cause major problems for Christian churches and other religions, greatly hinder business owners, and cause chaos in families and homes across America. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, then share it with your friends and family so they can unlearn the lies with us. If you want to see more videos like this one, subscribe to my channel. And I want to say a special thank you to those who support this ministry. We truly appreciate your prayers and your generosity. Thank you so much. And remember, the truth will set you free. We'll see you next time.